What's up, guys? It's Quincy. Welcome to my channel. And today I wanted to talk about what is like sort of the biggest difference between the blockchains. And I sort of get this all the time being a developer for the XDC Foundation. It's like, oh, what's the difference between like all the networks? Like, what's the point? Like, what is everybody doing? And there's sort of like a few different layers to it. Like, most people go to like the technicals in terms of like the speed, the costs. Other people may go to like what the different goals and the different focus of the different creators or fosters of those networks. And sort of the biggest thing that I'm sort of seeing is it's a little bit of both, although there's a lot of overlap in technology and a lot of overlap in terms of like goals and such. But one of the biggest things that's sort of becoming like apparent is different networks will facilitate different activity. So with XDC, we typically want to facilitate like trade finance, global trade finance, and being able to automate that in any way possible, and then being able to bring assets from traditional finance onto the blockchain, and then being able to have an automated means of being able to trade those worldwide on the XDC network. But you may have like networks like Ethereum that may focus on like consumer goods, retail, startup focus. You may see networks like XRP focus on like cross-border remittance and liquidity providing, and just a bunch of different ecosystems that are facilitating a certain type of activity. You may even see certain networks come along and they're focusing on just games, and that network has predominantly different types of games that are able to interact with each other in some capacity. Or another network come along and focused on what other form of activity it wants to facilitate. But that's sort of the biggest thing, because everyone goes like, oh, these network stacks are like this, and this is faster, and this is cheaper. Yeah, the team's goals are like this, and everyone sort of like reiterates that. But sort of one of the core differences is like what's actually being like facilitated, and it's sort of being like fostered as like a collective of all the different entities on these networks interacting with each other, and the users participating and using those different services being provided. And it's so crazy to sort of think about, but I think that's sort of where the future of blockchain is going to end up being, is that there's going to be a certain general level of interconnectability, but different networks will facilitate different behaviors or different markets. And then as those networks become bigger, more efficient, more engaging, people will predominantly start going to specific networks for those specific behaviors and specific market patterns that they want to follow. Like I said, if you want to focus on trade finance, you may go with XDC. If you want to focus on consumer retail and consumer goods or consumer NFTs, you may focus on like Ethereum. Or if you want to go focus on another type of activity, like cross-border remittance, you may go to XRP. You may go to Bitcoin in terms of whatever type of activity. And it's sort of just that idea, is that the networks are the networks in terms of the technology, but the activity sort of what makes them different from each other. And this is all just based off of what projects are being built, how those projects are engaging with different users on the networks, and then how those projects are engaging with each other. And it's an interesting thing to think about, because as like, and I'm seeing this more and more too, as like the space matures more and more, different networks are starting to get more into their niche and get more into the technology that gives them a competitive edge, and then that niche, that edge, will facilitate a specific behavior around it, because it's the most efficient means of being able to do that, whatever it is, whether it's, like I said, trade finance, or whether it's whatever. Um, then different people will go to those different networks to engage with those different parties with that behavior around it. And I don't know where this could end up going. You may end up seeing like 1,000 different networks with 1,000 different industries of different means in all interacting with each other in some regard, and having some vague means of interconnecting cross network. But for the most part, that's sort of what makes them all different, is the fact that they all have a different like market activity. They all have different parties being facilitated, and different incentives for how those parties will engage with each other. But anywho, yeah, I hope you guys like that, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.